Hello everybody and welcome to lesson 6. We are going to be starting body membranes and skin. The next 3 lessons, 6, 7, and 8, are all going to focus on the integumentary system, aka our skin. So it's really nice that we get some background knowledge on what body membranes are first before we get into skin. So body membranes, they are going to cover surfaces and line body cavities. So as you can imagine, a lot of membranes are going to be made of epithelial tissue, and that's one of our major groups. So our epithelial membranes are what we're going to talk about first, and you have 3 major types that we're going to get into. You also have something called a synovial membrane, which is going to be composed of connective tissue. So epithelial membranes are our covering and lining membranes, and that completely makes sense after we just finished up epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue, remember, lines and covers. That's its major role. The cutaneous membrane is a major epithelial membrane, and that is going to be your skin. We're also going to get into mucous membranes and serous membranes. Now, all of these membranes that we're going to talk about are going to contain really epithelial tissue kind of at the surface, and then underneath it is going to be a layer of connective tissue. So here is the 4 major membranes that we're going to talk about. These 3 here are our epithelial tissue membranes, and we're going to talk about them first. So the cutaneous membrane would be our skin. Serous membranes are going to kind of cover different organs to basically decrease friction. And then mucous membranes are going to be secreting some type of secretion. And then we have our connective tissue membrane here, our synovial membrane, which we'll talk about last. All right, so the cutaneous membrane, aka the skin, it is made of stratified squamous epithelium. And then you see this kind of word here, keratinized. All that means is these cells are pumped full of keratin, which is a protein that makes them really, really strong. Underneath the skin is a second layer called the dermis, which is going to be made of connective tissue. It's exposed to dry air, so it is a dry membrane. So here is just an overview of the skin, and you're going to be seeing this picture a lot over the next couple of lessons. We're really going to get into these major layers that you can kind of see here, and then all of these appendages. But for right now, just know that the skin is a cutaneous epithelial membrane. Mucous membranes. So these are going to be different types of epithelium resting on loose connective tissue called the lamina propria. And really, these are going to line body cavities that open to the exterior. So this is going to be the type of membranes lining the inside of your nose or the inside of your lungs, the inside of your digestive tract, your urinary system, and your reproductive system. Basically, if it can lead to the outside environment, it's going to be lined by a mucous membrane. Most mucous membranes are going to be made of stratified squamous, like on the inside of your nose, or simple columnar like we find in the digestive tract. So here is a picture that we've kind of all become familiar with when learning about our different tissues. This is an example of a mucous membrane, and you can see it's lining the inside of your small intestine here. So these are going to be simple columnar cells that are secreting mucus from these goblet cells out into the intestines for lubrication. Mucous membranes are going to be known as wet membranes because they are bathed in secretions, and their epithelium is adapted for secretion and absorption. So the mucosa inside of your respiratory and digestive tracts are going to basically secrete large amounts of this mucus. The mucus inside your respiratory tract, okay, inside your lungs, you're going to have a kind of a mucus layer all through here. And then in the digestive tract, we just talked about those goblet cells secreting mucus to help basically keep a nice slick surface in there. All right, serous membranes are going to be our last type of epithelial membrane we're going to talk about. So these are going to be simple squamous epithelium laying on a really thick layer of areolar connective tissue. These are going to line all of your body cavities that are closed to the exterior. So this is not leading outside into the open environment. And really, these membranes come in two pairs. They actually just fold on top of each other like this. So this would be one layer of the serous membrane, and this would be the other layer of the serous membrane. So let's say, and this is going to be a crude drawing, that this is the organ that's surrounding, or that the serous membrane is covering. You're going to have the visceral layer here basically touching that organ, and then the parietal layer here is going to be more outside. So it really is just tissue kind of folded into each other. That's what those two pairs mean. So if we look here, here is that nice serous membrane covering the heart, and you can see that it comes in two pairs. So if you look closely, you'll see two red lines covering the heart. That's showing you that you have those two layers basically creating a double membrane. So this is how they kind of work. So this would be our serous membrane covering the heart, or the pericardium. Our visceral layer is going to be the layer that's basically touching the organ. And then the parietal layer is going to be the outer layer here. And they often call it the balloon relationship, because if you were taking a balloon and putting your fist in like that, then that's what it would create, is kind of a double layer. So serous membranes are going to secrete what we call serous fluid. And if you go back to that kind of balloon picture, you'll notice that when it's folding in on each other, there's a space in between those two layers. So in between those two layers is a cavity, and inside that cavity, so it's represented by the blue here, is going to be serous fluid. And the serous fluid is going to really help organs to slide easily past each other without any friction. So it's really important for when your heart's beating, you kind of have this frictionless surface with this fluid so that you don't create any rubbing against other organs. And serous membranes are always named for where they're located. So the pericardium, for example, is going to be the membrane surrounding the heart. Anytime you see that word like cardio or cardium, it's going to mean heart. And pleura is the membrane, the serous membrane that is surrounding your lungs. So you can see there's your visceral pleura, so that would be touching the actual lung, and then the parietal layer is going to be on the outside, and then in between these two layers is going to be all of your serous fluid. Okay, our last body membrane is going to be a synovial membrane, and it's different because up here you'll see the word connective. All the membranes we've talked about now have been primarily composed of epithelial tissue. Now we're going to be talking about connective tissue with these. So it's going to be composed of soft areolar connective tissue, and it doesn't contain any epithelial tissue at all. It's basically going to line the joints around your bones, and it also contains small sacs of fluid that are inside of your joints called bursa. If you've ever known anybody to have bursitis, that's the inflammation of these bursa sacs. And the whole purpose of these synovial connective tissue membranes is to cushion organs, or basically your joints, when you're moving around each other during muscle activity. So let's take a look here. So here are some tendons all kind of going through the hand, and these synovial sheaths, or these connective tissue sheaths, are basically covering them to help protect them and create a frictionless surface. You also can see over here, here's our knee joint. This is the knee joint. They have a synovial membrane surrounding this entire joint, and then in here you're going to have fluid to help create a nice frictionless surface when you're exercising. This down here is an example of a bursa sac. We have a lot of them in our knee and our shoulders and our hips, and these can become inflamed, so that's what bursitis is. So now we're going to get into the second major topic of this lesson, which is starting the integumentary system. We just talked about how the skin is a cutaneous epithelial membrane. Now we're just going to get into the functions of this system. So it's going to be your skin, and then later on in our lessons, we're going to talk about the sweat, oil, glands, hair, and nails. So the functions of the integumentary system are kind of like a no-duh, like we know that it's going to protect deeper tissue, but let's get into a little bit more detail. The first is mechanical damage. So the cells of your skin are strengthened with a protein called keratin, and girls, you may have heard this word keratin before because you always want to buy shampoo with keratin in it, because keratin is the major protein found in your skin, hair, and nails. Chemical damage, this means that we have pain receptors, and those are going to help if you touch something that's chemical and maybe burning the skin, it's going to send a message to your central nervous system. Bacterial damage, obviously the skin is an unbroken surface. It really keeps the outside environment out. You also secrete sweat, which is slightly acidic, to help inhibit any bacterial infections. And then right below the surface of your skin, you have lots and lots and lots of white blood cells there to ingest any foreign substances. Okay, so if we look here, here are those pain receptors that I was just talking about. They're found pretty close to the surface of the skin, if you can see. So if something is painful or chemically burning the skin, we quickly can get that response to our nervous system. All right, the skin also protects us from ultraviolet radiation, which is sun damage, and we do this in a really, really cool way. Here is a melanocyte, and this guy here is a different cell type than most of your other skin cells. And what it does is when you're laying out in the sun, so the sun would be up here, when you're laying out in the sun, okay, these melanocytes actually begin to kind of crawl through your skin, and they surround your cells, making them, basically protecting them from the UV damage, and that's what tanning is the melanocytes trying to protect your cells. Okay, it also protects us from cold, pain, heat and cold, and with pain receptors, and drying out. We basically are waterproofed with our outer layers of skin. Okay, it helps us with temperature regulation. When we are really hot, we can activate sweat glands, and we also allow blood flow to go up to the surface of the body to release heat. If you've ever known someone that works out and they really get like red in the face, that's what this is their blood flow to their skin is increased so they can release heat. And then when we want to retain heat, when we're maybe a little bit cold, we actually don't allow any blood flow to go up to the surface of the skin and keep it more internal. Sweat also gets rid of different things that we don't need, waste products like urea. And then from the sun, we can also synthesize vitamin D. So here's our vitamin D. I love this picture because it just shows you great detail, but we get vitamin D from the sun, and vitamin D makes us very happy. So sometimes you'll hear people get into seasonal depression, meaning that if they live in a very cold, cloudy environment and they don't see the sun for a long time, they actually become depressed, and that's because their skin isn't helping to manufacture vitamin D. And then over here you can see our nice sweat glands secreting sweat to help us get rid of heat if we are too hot. All right, so looks like we're going to finish right at 15 minutes here, which is awesome. We're basically just going to go over the 3 layers of skin very quickly, and then the next lesson we'll go into details. So the skin really has 3 layers. The epidermis is the one closest to the surface of the skin, and it's really made of tough stratified epithelial. Below it is going to be the dermis. The dermis is going to be made of mostly dense connective tissue. And then the third layer, in some textbooks, is not considered a part of skin, in some it is. We're kind of going to go back and forth on a little bit, but you definitely need to know that the hypodermis is below the dermis, and it's made of fat tissue, adipose tissue, and that's to really help with insulation and anchor the skin to our lower organs. So this is our skin, and we're going to be getting into lots and lots and lots of details in the lessons to come, but here's our top layer, our epidermis, and our lower layer, our dermis here. So thanks for watching. Make sure you've filled out your note guide completely and continue on with your tasks.